Good evening. This is the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon Show. We're coming to you live. It's a live program that you can get moment by moment as the dialogue or the action or the exchanges unfold. You can get it live on Guyanese Critic Facebook and on YouTube. Two apologies. Leonard Gildarie is not here this evening. Mr. Gildarie is a small businessman, and business requirements take him away from time to time. As for me, I am not a businessman, I'm a pensioner, so I guess I have more time. The second apology is that you would have noticed the ad running this morning and yesterday advertising the guest as Elton McQuay, one of the councillors of the BV Triumph Council. It was decided that the chairman of the BV Triumph Council would be of immense value to the program because of a particular decision he made with national implications. So we thought it appropriate, pressing and valuable that we should have the chairman of the BV Triumph NDC here. Mr. McQuay objected to that and said he would not share the same platform with the chairman. So he declined to be here. We have with us the chairman. I will introduce him, but I will take up some of Gildarie's time, and as he's not here, to speak to you. This is going to be a long introduction, but you will see the relevance of it to the gentleman who's sitting next to me, and the national sadness about a certain decision. And I emphasize the word national sadness because I think indeed it is when you see what will unfold in the next hour. Now for my introductory remarks, which I stress again, you may find irrelevant, but you will see the relevance as I introduce my guest and the thing he's about to speak on. If I was to ask if I have any regrets in life, if I was to ask any regrets over the 55 years in political activism that I've been in, which is the one at the top of my list? In fact, there is one only, and it's very traumatic, and that is me bringing my wife back here to Guyana in 1984. My wife graduated and won the National Chemical Institute Award for the best graduating student of the entire Canada in that year for the entire university system. Her colleagues was getting jobs, were being given jobs in water treatment plant, pharmaceutical companies, what have you. I brought her back here. And that is my biggest regret. It has had a traumatic effect in me, and I will not recover from it. I should not have brought my wife back here because 55 years of sacrifice have proven nothing and have done nothing for me and this country. And I say that unapologetically, and you will see the relevance when we come to speaking to Jimmaul Bagot, the chairman of BV Triumph NDC. I have come back here with my wife, and I look at this country and I say to myself, is there anything that has changed before I married her when I was in struggle in the 70s? I am a product of the politics of the 70s, and in that age, the theme was Black is Beautiful, socialism, Afro wore their hair in the Afro style, like the earlier Jackson 5, Michael Jackson, and those values were respected. And if anybody in a supermarket, in a shop, made a comment about that hairstyle, anybody made a comment about a sugar worker, there would have been strikes and demonstrations. That's the era that I came from. What has happened since that era? I read in the papers that a multi-trillion, now that is no exaggeration, multi-trillion, trillion is $1,000 billion. And there are some super rich Guyanese families whose assets are about $1 trillion. I read in the papers that Munishwar Company had compelled or asked their workers to bring their own toilet paper and hand sanitizer. That was a letter in the Starbook News written by the staff. In my age in the 70s, you know what would have happened when I was at university in 1974. You know the picket and the boycott that would have ensued of Munishwar, but nothing happened. The previous government, the government before that, the present government, and all kinds of socialist people and radical people and people who champion democracy, they buy at Munishwar. Now, I went with the traffic chief to Banks DIH for the traffic chief to tell Banks DIH that they illegally occupying a third of a mile of public property. The traffic chief was contemptuously treated. Nobody came out to speak to him, and he was at that gate. When he left, Banks DIH removed the cones and implanted permanent no parking signs right at the spot that the traffic chief was to tell them that that was illegal. And the traffic chief just went away. Then I suspect something was wrong, the way the traffic chief was behaving. And I was the fool. The traffic chief knew that the company was bigger than the police force. The traffic chief knew where power lies in this country. So he wasn't ruffled and he wasn't irate. He knew that that company had more power than him and the police force. That was in 2022. When I was at university in the 70s, when there was radicalism all over the Caribbean, you know what would have happened outside Banks DIH? And the traffic chief just left, and Banks DIH, in a show of control of Guyana, has implanted permanent no parking signs on public property. And it just goes on like that. This is a country that I brought a very talented woman back to, who could have been earning substantial amount as a top-class chemical employee. Now we come to the relevance of this evening's program. And I will make one short additional introductory remark, and then I'll introduce our guest. It has been in the news since December 2021. I wrote a column in February 2022 about African ancestral lands in BV being bought by $1 trillion company, John Fernandes Limited. 143 acres of land at roughly $240,000 to $250,000 for an acre. Nowhere in the world you can get an acre of land. 1 acre. An acre is a football field. I think if the chairman of the NDC run round a football field, he may start to exhaust himself. If I run round a football field, I will die with my age. And 143 football fields were bought at 250 acres. When the horse dung hit the fan and it became public that this is ridiculous, this is the land that ancestors of Guyanese struggled for and have passed on to their generation, John Fernandes said to the NDC of BV Triumph, okay, look, we don't want no problem, we don't want no controversy. Okay, we withdraw the deal, and the NDC was quite happy to reimburse them the $20 million in advance. Now, brace yourself for what could only be a banana republic manifestation in Guyana. And so I come back to my 55 years of activism. What has changed? Why have I suffered so much with this country to see what is happening in BV? So, we thought it was over, and John Fernandes Limited got back their check, and the people's ancestral land in BV would remain, and the NDC say, look, we're sorry, this was a mistake. No! John Fernandes Limited passed on the sale of agreement to a company that is esoteric, that is mysterious. No one knows who they are, where they exist. Mr. Bagot will have to explain that this evening. So, this company is still asking the NDC to buy land forcibly, since they're going to court, for $250,000 per acre. What did John Fernandes did? Who is this new company that is pressuring the NDC in BV to buy ancestral land? This is a mystery, but it's also dangerous. In a country that is so sensitive ethnically, in a country where everything that happened in the Indian community, in the African community, is amplified and has national implications, but also has consequences that would lead to instability. This matter this evening has to be solved. It has to be discussed, and Guyanese people must feel that this episode of a Banana Republic, this particular episode, must not be allowed to fester. My guest this evening is the man who signed the sale of agreement with John Fernandes, because he signed that in his capacity as chairman of the BV Triumph NDC. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jimmaul Bagot, elected chairman of the BV NDC, BV Triumph NDC. Mr. Bagot, sorry for that long introduction, but I think it fits in with what is going to flow in the next 55 minutes. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
My first question to you is, why did you do what you did?
All right, now before I start, Mr. Kissoon, I want to correct you. When you started your introduction, you would have indicated that you have here with you the person who would have made the decision for the sale of the lands located in Bedford Triumph. I just want, because I want to put this out there, because a lot of persons run away with the idea that the chairman, he works in isolation. I just want to make it clear that between Bedford and Triumph, our council has 18 seats, and any decision at the level of our council, for it to have validity, it has to go through our statutory meeting. A vote has to be taken. So I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, and I concede that. I concede that.
All right. So the question to me is,
how could you as a chairman participate in selling ancestral lands to $1 trillion company at that kind of low value?
All right. So let me put this in perspective. Jimmaul Bagot or any chairman or any councillors on the council didn't just wake up overnight and say, hey, we're going to sell these lands that are located in BV Triumph. It didn't happen like that. John Fernandes, sometime last year, they sent in a proposal to the council. The proposal basically was to develop the lands located in Section F and G, Bedford. We would have perused the proposal at several statutory meetings, and basically, in a nutshell, the proposal basically was to develop a portion for housing and a portion for oil and gas sector. Now, anyone who knows Bedford would know that the village, it ends about approximately, let's say, 8 miles from the line top. And then after then, we have back dam lands. We have section A, B, C, D, E, F, up to G. So when John Fernandes sent in this proposal to us, we discussed it at length. The first thing we did...
You want to just show the camera
Yes.
Let me
So,
lift it up to show.
I'm sorry I didn't work with a colored copy.
This is
So they sent in a proposal to develop these
this is a
lands.
John Fernandes proposal here, right? Yes, it says, let me read it in case you haven't. John Fernandes Limited proposal: purchase, development, and use of land at Betterfor Acton. Okay.
Yes, and of course, we had councillors on the council who had a series of questions concerning the proposal, such as one such question was whether the NDC own these lands located in the area, whether we have the authority to sell it or not. Our first step was then to write the court, the registrar, seeking to ascertain whether the council owns these lands. At the time, we had in our possession what is called a crown grant for section F and G, and the registrar responded in the positive, stating that section F and G belongs to the council. Now that would have been the first step that we would have taken, very ascertaining whether or not these lands belong to the council or to the people of Betterfor Acton. Because I must say, we had a few councillors, about one or two councillors, who were saying that the lands belong to persons living in Betterfor Acton Triumph. And I can say, and I've always been saying, I've made the statement clear on camera, off camera, that the council cannot sell what it does not own. And that was my position then, and it's still my position now. We were going on the advice of what we got from the registrar that these lands belongs to the Betterfor Acton Triumph NDC. That is what we were going on. And to address you would have raised, and you keep saying it, you keep pounding it in the public, that the NDC has sold 143 acres of land at $250,000 per acre. Again, we did not go to bed, sleep, and we wake up and say, hey, we're going to sell this thing at this price. These things have process. Now, if the council make a decision, all right, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna sell this land, we can't come up with a price just like that. We have to write the Ministry of Local Government, the valuation department, and we have to come up with a value before we could even come up with a price. And we did just that. We didn't come up with any cost or anything. And to tell you, Mr. Kissoon, the valuation then was about $111,000 per acre. And this was basically because the lands are inaccessible. They were inaccessible. They are inaccessible. It starts from the conservancy coming down. So that was one of the issues. Older folks in Betterfor Acton would know it, because they used to call it Pagas land. Growing up, I would hear they call it Pagas land. So that is something I want to make public, that the NDC didn't come up with any cost. The cost was really way lower than the cost that you're now quoting. And I just want to make it clear out there that there were a series of steps that was taken before we came to finally inking the agreement.
All right. Something is wrong there. And I want to simplify this for our viewers. The evaluation department gives me a paper saying my little 2B2 is 7 million. There is no determinant on my part. There is no compulsion on my part to sell my neighbor this thing for 40 million or 8 million or 9 million because the valuation department put it at 7. Why can't I say to the buyer, well, look, this is the valuation, but I want 25 million. Take it or leave it. One of the things in management studies, and I think it's even in bargaining, is that when a buyer approaches you for something, now let me, this is the John Fernandes agreement. When a buyer approaches you for something, you immediately got a strategic advantage because he wants to buy. So if the valuation was 110,000 for an acre, how old was that evaluation? Because we're talking about a John Fernandes agreement of 2021. Now, when you take Sheriff Street and what Sheriff Street is becoming, those evaluations for those houses who are not yet occupied in Sheriff Street may be little or nothing.
Correct.
But look at what Sheriff Street is becoming.
Yes. Now, before you go further, to answer your questions, the valuation was the year date. It was dated 2021. It was done in 2021, and I agree with you 100%. And if you do the calculation, you'll see that we didn't sell for what it was valued at, Mr. Kissoon. We did not. We sold it at almost double. And another important thing to note is that the agreement, it wasn't made in isolation. It was made surrounding the proposal that was sent, which meant that John Fernandes would have had to develop approximately 10 miles going down into the backlands. And we saw the bigger picture. We saw that, all right, we have this company who has the capacity to develop the entrance going in, who has the capacity to develop these lands. We have villagers, hundreds of villagers who have lands located in section D, E, C, who cannot access their lands because of the road, because there's no light, because there's no water. And we have this company who's willing to put in these infrastructures. It would have been a win-win for everyone, because persons would have been able to use the road to get access to their lands. Because like I would have indicated to you, section G starts from the conservancy coming in. So they have to go past all of the lands located in the sections before they reach section G. So that is the bigger picture that the council saw then when we were discussing this.
Oh, but I would think because of your position, you may have more access to business dealings than me. But if it was 110 and you sell it for almost double, wasn't there any advice that, look, with Guyana being transformed by oil, this would be worth a fortune? I mean, this whole country is being transformed now. The Bobby's Bridge transformed Crab Island. Crab Island real estate value is just gone up. I live next to CARICOM. And when I lived next to CARICOM, there was nothing in the railway embankment. There was no gift land. There was no aquatic center. There was no headquarters of Ramakrishna, what have you. Now, look what is happening by CARICOM. Look what massive supermarket. Right. So, why did the council? Two questions the council should have said. If this thing is bagasse land, if this thing is, why John Fernandes want it? That had to be the first inkling. They have so much money. They could buy so much things. Why they want it? You must remember John Fernandes, with the oil economy, John Fernandes bought, I understand, opened up a whole set of land by the Damara River there. So nobody, and politicians supposed to be astute people, no one around the table didn't say, but Guyana's economy is being transformed. That wasteland you see there could be worth a fortune in the next couple of years. And that's number one. And why from 110, let's say, to 250? Why not $1 million for an acre? Who arbitrarily arrived at this?
Okay. Now, you rightfully said where you're currently living. Before it had a process. Right now, it's valued way more than what it was worth. Probably 20-30 years. When you moved in there, they had nothing there, and it's basically the same thing. I don't know if you listened to me earlier, but I said Section F and G, John Fernandes sent in the proposal for. The council made a decision that we're not going to be disposing of Section F. We're going to strategically keep Section F. However, we're going to allow John Fernandes to develop Section G so as to bring value to Section F. And the idea then was for us to develop a housing area for villagers living in Betterfor-Acton. We went as far as preparing the plans and lotting it out, everything. So our aim then was, as soon as John Fernandes started developing Section G, we're going to start developing Section F for the people of Betterfor-Acton. So it was kind of a yeah you, yeah me, as Guyanese would say, situation when we discussed it.
You seem to feel that there was some generosity in the part of John Fernandes, and if one zero in on the subliminal, I for want of a better word, I think there's some subliminal thoughts going on inside your head there, that this was a good deal. John Fernandes would have had to develop 10 miles and it would have opened up. So you seem to be under the mental perception that John Fernandes was doing BV a favor. Now, when the evening progresses and we come to Mohammed's mothers and daughters, we will see that maybe John Fernandes and some other people see this land as very valuable. But let us move on from the initial thing. Now, it so happened in December, I remember it was Christmas time, and when it's Christmas time, you have a journalist, a columnist. You know, it's a hard field to work when nothing happens. But then this thing hit the nation, yeah, that John Fernandes backed out because you meaning the council subsequently found out that those lands that John Fernandes was buying are in fact privately owned and not the council thing. And all is well that ends well. John Fernandes was quoted in the press saying, no man, we didn't know it was ancestral land, we didn't know it was people land, we don't want to deprive people of the land, we have come to an amicable agreement with the NDC, and the NDC then said, yes, we made a mistake, and a check was forwarded. Now we are into, now Mr. Bagot, we have entered a Draculian den. And you now have to speak to the Guyanese people about a mysterious turn.
Yeah.
All is well that ends well in December 21, and whether it's inaccessible land or what have you, it remained in private hands. But now we found out that John Fernandes took this sale of agreement that I always refer to the NDC as you.
Yes.
Or if you're more mentally comfortable with me saying NDC.
Yeah.
The NDC, John Fernandes then gave or sold, whatever one want to use, to a company named Mohammed's Sons and Daughters and Mining and Logging. So John Fernandes then said to the people, look, they had to be, Mr. Bagot, this is going to be interesting, and I'm sure viewers are glued to their seat. This is going to be interesting to hear your take on the U-turn John Fernandes did. John Fernandes had to contact these people and say to them, look at this thing here, you interested in it? But that is conscience versus strategic interest. If John Fernandes backed out of it because of conscience, where was John Fernandes' conscience in telling another company, you want to buy this land? We could sell you this sale of agreement.
Well, something important to note that viewers may not know is that the deed of assignment that was granted to from John Fernandes to Mohammed's sons and daughters, it had no consideration. There was no consideration, meaning there was no cost attached to it. However, I subsequently read the other day that John Fernandes issued a statement stating that the company refunded them. However, they have a legal document that we're going to be presenting to the courts that shows that there was no consideration, meaning there was no cost attached to them transferring the deed of assignment to Mohammed's sons and daughters.
So why did they do it? Do you want to speculate?
I do not want to speculate. It is currently before the courts. We're going to be having our first court date on the 1st of November. So I do not want to speculate tonight.
Okay, but Mr. Bagot, would you agree with me that the act of John Fernandes of approaching another entity with the results that this entity could now take over what John Fernandes had withdrawn, and there had to be something in John Fernandes' head that says there is something here. Do you want it? I repeat. So John Fernandes was willing to get involved in a process that would allow for that sale of land, only that it wouldn't be in John Fernandes' possession, but in some other possession. Where does that leave? The declaration in December by John Fernandes that let this thing have ended amiably. This thing have ended in good spirit. We didn't know ABCD. We didn't know this was private land. We don't want to buy this land and continue seeing that these problems will arise. How did Mohammed's sons and daughters come into the picture?
I cannot speak for Mohammed's sons and daughters or John Fernandes tonight, but what I can say is that subsequently, after it came to light that John Fernandes was backing out, and then we would have indicated also, that we've discovered a few persons who came forward with transports for the same area, and we're not going to be going ahead with the sale. We had a series of correspondence back and forth with John Fernandes, in extension Mohammed's sons and daughters. I said in extension because our first correspondence that we received, it came from a mystery lawyer who wrote us sometime in February.
Let me see that. Let's show that. A ghost lawyer?
Yes, it's a ghost lawyer because we responded to it, and she never wrote us back concerning it. We asked
Could
her,
you please find that? Let me.
Who she was representing, because in the letter she did not state that she was representing John Fernandes. She stated her client.
This lawyer is how could she be a ghost lawyer if she's writing to a legal body, NDC, on a legal matter?
Well, the letter was very ambiguous in that she did not state that she was representing. No, I didn't work with it. Probably I have it on my phone. I can send it to you though.
No, if you have it on your phone, can you read it there for our viewers?
Yeah, sure.
This lady didn't sign her name?
Yes, she did.
So what's her name?
I'll get it.
Just ask our views. This is very interesting. We went to the realm of the supernatural now, Mr. Bagot. So let's read it. Can you look at the camera and read it?
It was addressed to our overseer and dear Miss Otto. Reference agreement for sale and purchase 30th November 2021. The matter at caption refers I am instructed that my client purchased from your NDC on the 30th day of November 2021 immovable property situated at Section G, Plantation, Bedford-Acton, in the Triumph Bedford-Acton NDC Village, District, East Coast Zamora, which lot consists of 143 acres. The missive serves to inform you that my client is ready, willing, and able to complete the conveyance in the circumstance. I shall be grateful if the necessary acts can be taken to ensure the filing, advertising, and passing of transport in favor of my client. Your favorable and expedient response is anticipated. And this was signed by one Chanela Glenn George.
That's a way lawyer.
Pardon?
That's a way lawyer. That's a lawyer that that I know.
Yeah, she wrote us concerning it, and I
So who's our client in this?
Well, like I said, it's an ambiguous letter because it.
So you don't know who she's representing.
It did not state in the letter, as I just read.
So she had to be representing John Fernandes then, because
it speaks about the land. So we assume that it's John Fernandes, but I wanted to be the devil's advocate, and I wrote her concerning it, asking to state which client she represents, and that letter was unanswered. So that was our first letter that we received concerning it. I subsequently wrote John Fernandes concerning the NDC's willingness to make the payment as early as possible, of which we got a response from, and that was our first response from Mohammed's Sons and Daughters. So we sent the letter to John Fernandes.
And you got a response?
We got a response from Mohammed.
But you know what date is that? Something smells fishy. What did Shakespeare say about Denmark, Mr. Bagot? Remember Shakespeare?
Yes.
And his quote about Denmark? You remember that? Something is not right here. Now, when did John Fernandes throw up his hands and say, look, we are good corporate citizens, we don't want to buy other people's land, we didn't know you was... When did John Fernandes said that to the NDC? I read that on the 25th of December last year, that was made public. Did John Fernandes said that before Christmas Day?
Yes. I spoke to an official from John Fernandes shortly after that missive went out, and that person indicated that, they're not going to be going ahead anymore. They don't want any.
You know what month was that?
That was in December.
That was in December?
Yes.
Well, okay. Well, Chanela Glenn's letter is November. Now.
Not November. Her letter is in March of this year.
March of this year? Okay.
Yes.
So you don't know what, right, if it's in March this year, that letter is in fact very vague, because she doesn't say it's which client. But for the rest of this program, there has to be some exploration of either some legal exploration or some supernatural exploration. Legal in the sense that we now have to know who's this company that John Fernandes did. Legally, Mr. Bagot, and semantically, there is or there was some kind of verbal, oral contact between John Fernandes and Mohammed Mothers and Daughters. It couldn't be just, they had to know these people or this company to pass on the sale of agreement. So we're going to come to that now. So I think you agree that John Fernandes was in contact with a company named Mohammed Mothers and Daughters and Sons or what have you.
I can only assume.
Right, good. Now, well, you can no longer assume. It's fact because, Mr. Bagot, it's factual because it's not an assumption anymore. Mothers, what am I saying mothers? Mohammed's Sons and Daughters, the company is taking you to court and is producing an agreement that was passed on to them by John Fernandes. Now that is factual.
Yes.
That is factual.
Correct.
It's not that Mohammed's got this thing from some extraneous body, and John Fernandes is in the background. They got an agreement that you made with John Fernandes, and asking you, based on agreement, compelling you to sell land. Now, Mr. Bagot, Starbook News did an editorial which I think, for someone who's been an academic all his life and has been in the media for 34 years, that was an excellent editorial that gels with what runs in my vein. Starbook News said they sent their journalistic investigators to the address of Mohammed's daughters and sons. The address does not exist in Commons Lodge, and there's no phone call response to the cell calls made by the chief guy, whoever it is Mohammed and Sons. Mr. Bagot, who is Mohammed's daughters and sons?
Well, Mr. Kissoon, that's an unfair question. I cannot answer the question, but what I can say is that at the level of our council, we would have went to the address as well, and we can confirm what Starbook wrote. It is true that there's no one living at the address, and we did further checks as to, we went as far as to seeking a copy of the company records from the registry, and the address there is a different address. The address is Used Fields in Stobie as their
what?
legal.
Excuse me, Used Fields in Stobie?
Yes.
Mr. Bagot, I have a lot of respect for Nigel Hughes, and Mr. Hughes has been very, very politically loyal to me, in that for 8 years I had a libel with.
I have a lot of respect for him as well.
But I'm a little bit, I have to catch myself. The address of Mohammed's mothers and daughters is Used Fields in Stobie?
Yes, the company address.
Of Mohammed's? Mr. Bagot, you ever thought as a politician and as a leader, because the chairman of the NDC has leadership position, you ever thought of contacting someone from John Fernandes and say to them, who is this Mohammed's thing? You passed on the sale of agreement. I mean, you're a fine young man, fine politician. You won the election in BV. There's no fear of asking John Fernandes, who is Mohammed's mothers and sons?
Well, I think probably a few months ago that would have been appropriate, but I think we're at a stage now where that would be very inappropriate to now approach John Fernandes to ask them who is Mohammed's sons and daughters. But
you don't have a lawyer?
Yes, we do.
What's your lawyer's name?
Mr. Khan.
What the Khan is like Kissoon, very common.
Mr. Kashir Khan.
Oh, I don't know him, but I know him to sell high and right. I remember I was selling barbecue tickets for me and your friend. I know he's your friend, Elton McQuay, who refused to come here. Elton and I went to university in 1974, so I know him a long time. And Mr. Kashir Khan was quite nice to buy 10 barbecue tickets from us. Elton and I were in the same organization. So I don't know him. But isn't it obligatory of Mr. Kashir Khan to write John Fernandes and say, could you elaborate on this company that you passed on the sale of agreement to?
Well, Mr. Khan is he's an excellent lawyer, and he has written John Fernandes concerning this entire issue or deal about twice. And I can say that we have the utmost confidence in him to do his thing as our lawyer and represent us.
Could you look into the camera and appeal to John Fernandes to discuss Mohammed's sons and daughters with the NDC? Why wouldn't John Fernandes want to do that?
No, well, I basically didn't come here, Mr. Kissoon, to the back and forth. I came here with one objective tonight, and that is to let the viewers out there know what is happening. We would have aired, I would have made it clear several times that we would have aired at the level of our council. We could have done better, we could have done better research, we could have done so much more. And I came here tonight basically to just let the persons who voted for us, who placed me in this position here, to let them know that I'll do whatever it takes to correct the wrong that was done. To let them know that we're not going to be bullied, we're not going to be forced into doing any acts of illegality. John Fernandes cannot make us or bend our hands and say, hey, we want y'all to or Muhammad's sons and daughters to say, we want y'all to sell these lands. Y'all got to sell these lands. We don't care if it's owned by anybody. You got to sell it. It doesn't happen it can't happen like that. So that is basically why I decided to come here tonight, even though a lot of persons would have advised me against coming on the show, and
because
letting persons know the NDC side. I personally believe that we could have done much more, enlightening the public from the inception, coming out more and letting persons know what really happened. We've allowed the media to spin, because many of the articles that I read, it lacks meat. It's missing a lot of things, and this is because the media operatives out there, they don't call Mr. Bagot and say, hey, we're doing a story on you, we need so details, can you give us so details? They go on hearsay, or they go from a second party or a third party, and then they just put it out there without any care of how this thing can go. And you're one of them, Mr. Kissoon, because I would have read your article yesterday where you're putting the rhetoric out there, trying to spin it as though, this thing could turn into Indian people, black people, something. And it's really not nice, like you would have indicated in your program that, Guyana is a very sensitive country when it comes to things like these. And to write such an article to say that no prominent or no, I can't remember the exact word, but no, in a nutshell, no prominent person of African descent came out to speak out about it or to condemn the NDC for doing it. We know, we've made it public that we have aired. We do no illegality. We follow the process. We were elected by the people of Betafo-Acton, and I'm sure next election most of them who would have voted for us, they're gonna say, hey, I'm voting for Mr. Bagot because Mr. Bagot, we gave you a chance and he messed up. And I respect that. But you can't go and you're writing these articles to say, and that is what I'm afraid of, and that's one of the reasons I came here tonight, to let persons know that I don't want, and I keep telling my councillors, let's not make this thing spin into a political battle. Let's not make it spin into a Indian people, black people, something. I don't want that. I'm not that kind of politician. So I wanted to make that clear, Mr. Kissoon. You're obligated to write whatever you want to write, but we have to be sensitive on certain stuff, especially when it comes to land. People is killed for land.
Mr. Bagot, we're going 50 minutes, and you've had the floor for 50 minutes. I insisted to Mr. McQuay that I want to have you. You have spoken to the public. This program has a lot of viewership. You have spoken to the viewership of what is inside of you, what you feel, and what the NDC, the different directions the NDC, and that opportunity was presented to you. Now, this is a country, and I must say to you, you have my admiration for two things: your strategic thinking and your courage. Politics is in everything, and I am sure the people that advise you not to come here do not have are not in the position you're in. You're in the position of an elected politician that is surrounded by controversy. I didn't do the Starbuck editorial. The Starbuck editorial is 3 times larger than my Sunday column. The Starbuck editorial brought out a lot of things. You therefore had to come here and tell Kissoon what you have just said. And that is what you're supposed to do. Those people who tell you not to come probably personalize the issue. But you're going to talk with Freddie Kissoon? Not that you're going and use a forum in which 20,000 people on Facebook and on YouTube, in the diaspora, in wherever Guyanese live, will see Jimmaul Bagot talking about the mistake he made and that they didn't know. You said the registrar of the High Court told you you had owned, meaning, you know what I mean by you. See, you have explained this. So I don't know why people tell you not to come. You know why they tell you not to come?
Right.
They have a political agenda. What you have here is a legal and moral agenda to speak to the Guyanese people. Now, as to for I don't want to take much of the time. You have the floor. As to my article, I felt that, you know, I am going to say something now. I've always spoken my mind. I don't have to tell you. I come from a very large multiracial background. I was born in an African Georgetown ward. I believe, Mr. Bagot, I'm speaking my mind. I believe if an Indian company, I am telling you this, I believe this. If you could open my heart and see it, you would. I believe if an Indian company, a company of East Indian people, businessmen, had got into that agreement with you, I think certain African leaders would have jumped on it and make it the racial issue. So I was saying, therefore, in my February 2022 article and in yesterday's article, that African Guyanese should have spoken up, because I know the hypocrisy that exists and in certain types of leadership, that when their own do something, you know, they don't want to come out and address their own and saying, you cannot do this. But here is the point. The point is, I think that you should have come here, and I think you have given account of yourself. And that is what politicians have to do. A politician cannot take the word of a businessman or some man in the village who don't like Freddie Kissoon. Hey man, when you're getting in the man show, you have an obligation to speak to Guyanese who are in Iceland or Afghanistan and want to know about this NDC thing. So we come back now to Mohammed's daughters and sons. They have taken you to court. Did you receive legal documents? Do you know who's their lawyer?
The lawyer is Hughes, Fields and Stovey, of course.
The lawyer is Hughes, Fields and Stovey?
Yes.
The Mohammed sons and daughters want this land? They want you to, the NDC, to go through with this sale?
Well, by all indications, yes.
I don't want when your name was advertised on this program, people sent in questions, and one man insisted that you have Mr. Bagot there, please ask him this question. I gave him my word, and I told him I would not ask the question if he wants to remain anonymous. If he lives in the NDC, BV Triumph area, and he has this problem in Mr. Bagot, he should be courageous enough to say, I am asking you to ask Mr. Bagot. I've been told that there is a place called Granville, and in section 4th Street of Granville, the road is so bad that even the teachers, nobody can use it. And the guy said his name is Timothy Bagwandin. So we have gone from land to road. We may come back. I'm looking at my thing, and we will come back to mothers, daughters, sons, or whatever.
All right.
Why don't you repair the people road, man?
Well, you can say, if you call any NDC chairman across Guyana, they'll tell you this: we don't have the funding to do roads. No NDC have the funding to do roads. To do that road specifically, it would cost an average of $9 million. Now, how can we do a road that would cost us $9 million when the total taxes we collect in Better for Acting, it doesn't reach $9 million when the year comes, or it barely reaches $9 million when the year comes? How can we do a road when our subvention that we receive from central government is only $5 million? $5 million per year, and the subvention is subject to projects that we have to highlight. We have to highlight, and roads aren't included, of course, because you can't do no kind of road for that trivial amount of money, right? The subvention have to be shared between Better for Acting and Triumph. So 2.5, a project for 2.5 in Better for Acting, a project for 2.5 million in Triumph. In the past we've tried to do roads by these cushion run roads, the cheaper way out, but it hasn't worked out for us. And then when we do it, we have persons who would come out and curse us and say, you know, what kind of road you are doing for we, you know. So it's really a sad situation, Mr. Bagwandin. We do not have the funds, and NDC, like my NDC, most of the time we got to think out of the box to raise funding for the NDC to execute works, to do things for the people of Better for Acting Triumph, because for some strange reason, I don't know why persons believe that the NDC is equipped with an unlimited amount of resources to do roads and to do whatever we want to do. It's not so. I wish it was so, but it's not so, unfortunately.
Mr. Bagot, my operator told me, and this thing I have in my ears, that we have 3 minutes more. And I don't want to make you uncomfortable. Can I make you uncomfortable? I don't think I can I?
Go ahead.
When opposition people told Mr. Bagot not to come here. So when Darren Wade came here, I said to Darren Wade, could Freddie Kissoon conquer you in a debate? And he said no. And Darren Wade get up and say all kinds of things that he wanted, all kinds of things. Now, you have an opportunity here, and I'm sure that I don't know if it affect your political prospect, but I will say this to you. I have to extend my congratulations for you turning away from the advice of not coming, and you came. And I think that is admirable, and it's a good sign of political strength. People must go and fight for what they believe in, and they must go and explain. I will go into any camp once my physical safety is respected, and I will argue with a Sheriff Duncan, with a David Hines. Let them invite me, and I will come. And that thing about people telling you no, you're a politician, you have to know what is your obligation. So I want to ask you, and I know what will be your answer, but people are watching, and I think they will be saying, Freddie, ask him. This thing looks strange. Is it possible that Muhammad's sons and daughters is a front for somebody else? How can a company, do you know who are the chief investors in Muhammad's sons and daughters? Who are they, where they live, who are these people?
No.
You don't know that?
No, personally.
Okay, I want to ask you to state explicitly, unambiguously, and with pellucid energy, the land is not the NDC land, yes or no?
The land located in Section G, we have concluded that the land is not our land. We have found, we did further research, and we would have found a number of names attached to the lands located in Section G. The lands are not for sale.
I am no lawyer, Mr. Bagot, but I cannot see how I could sell my neighbor thing. And when John Smith buy it, and the neighbor, the neighbor said, how you could sell my land? I'm going to the police or court. How could you sell land that doesn't belong to you? So I cannot see, I can't comment on the court case. I can't comment on the court case. But our time has come. Let me ask you what you plan to do in your future. You plan to stay in politics? You think this thing has caused a setback to you or what have you?
To some extent, as it relates to my plans, I think I'm going to take a back burner to politics, and probably come.
Oh my, this thing has
No, I made this decision long before this came out. I made the decision long before. Local politics is for older folks. It's for older folks.
You don't have older folks. 74% of the population is under 45.
Well, when I say older folks, I mean, persons who are 50s, in the 50s, 55, persons like my friend Mr. Macri. I'm going to leave it up to them to run with it, to run with politics. And I'm going to just focus on my personal self and, building me.
You sure you didn't let this thing get to you?
No.
You did well. You came out and you said you were... Look, you did two things this evening. You said you thought the John Fernandes thing would have helped your people. And now you said that was a mistake. And that's good political openness, Mr. Bagot. I am much older than you. I have about 55 years experience in human rights activism politics, 34 years in the media, and all my life an academic. I went into UG 74. People do not come in this place and say they're sorry. Elton John has a big hit. It was one of his biggest hit name. Sorry is the hardest word. If you talk to Elton John, he would say that's one of his biggest hits. Sorry is a leper in this country. People just can't come out and say they're sorry. And I think that's a good thing you have done, to come out publicly and say you're sorry. We may need more politicians like you. I think you were elected in APNU AFC. I didn't vote for that party in 2020. But you need people who could come. I think it was very, very strategic and political wise you coming here to speak to the public. I am sure, because the other people that come here tell me when I meet them, people say, yeah, the man hold your own against Freddie was coming out to Matai, and a guy come out of his car and say, Freddie, you couldn't knock James Bond over, boy. And I'm sure people are going to say you have done well, and I think you have done well. You have not showed any conspiratorial thought. I did not know that Mr. Hughes' company is a lawyer. I did not know Mohammed's sons and daughters were registered there. That, I don't want to say much more about that. Mr. Hughes and I have a very good, correct relation. But you have done well, and I would think maybe you should consider consider the decision to back off from politics.
Well, we can call it a pause. Not back off in the whole, but a pause. Put it on a pause.
Okay, look, it's nice talking to you. I can't comment on the court case, but I hope everything works out well.
Yes, I hope to come on your show again if you will allow.
I will allow you to come on the show
after the court. After the court
decision. After the court decision, you will come here, and I hope I could persuade my friend Elton McQuaid to come with you. I've known Elton since 1974. We have been friends since 1974, and I found it unfortunate that he didn't want to come on the show. I don't know. It's none of my business, none of the viewers' business, what is happening there. But I would have liked him to come on the show.
Me too. Me too.
So, once again, thanks. You're going to be here again.